Welcome to today's news on TV9. I'm Ada Cho. In today's local news, as the Olympics approaching soon, everyone in Auckland can take part in this Olympics challenge at Auckland Zoo. Sir Peter Gluckman talks to TV9 on China and New Zealand science cooperation, while Kiwi Rail makes budget plans to cut jobs. With eyes set on the gold for the London Olympics, Auckland Zoo is competing for a piece of the action. For a fun and exciting day out at the zoo, everyone is invited to participate at the Zoo Olympics and compete their skills against the athletes of nature. Kate has more.
Auckland Zoo has the challenges ready for any eager athletes at the Zoo Olympics this July school holidays. Anyone can earn gold for their participation. Just pick a fine day and put your running shoes on.
So generally our school holiday programmes will run for the 2 weeks of the holidays, but this is a real special programme. It's going to run for the 6 weeks the Olympic Games are on, and the special thing about it, it's called the Zoo Olympics. So it's real cool things, and we've made a twist on all the cool things that our animals do. So for example, flamingos can stand on one leg for about 4 hours. Chimpanzees can hang for 1 hour on one arm. So what we've done is some 10 cool areas around the zoo. And what's going to happen is we've invited all these kids who come into the zoo to follow the 10 clues. And what it's about is how can you compare to what these animals do naturally? So what they get, the kids get a really cool, I guess, an education, because they're hanging like a chimpanzee, and they can do it for like a minute and they're all exhausted. But these guys can hang for an hour. And so you've got things like how tall am I compared to other animals, and you've got how far can I jump compared to things like servos. So it's really all about that. It's all interactive, and the kids have really bought into it.
A record card for the participants can be collected at the entrance, and there are 10 challenges set up around the zoo where the official athletes will compete and compare themselves to the world's best wildlife talents.
I think it's really good. It's getting the kids involved and it's interactive. It means that they're learning stuff. They're learning it by doing rather than just having to go and read. So it means the younger kids are able to get in there and get involved in the activity. Whereas a lot of the activities the zoo do, quite often you have to read, find information out.
On a fine day like this, you won't want to miss out on the challenges and chances to get up close and personal to the animals at the zoo, as more exciting activities are scheduled throughout the day to make your experience at the zoo a memorable one. Kay Chow, 9 News.
The New Zealand-China Council, launched in February, recently added a few heavyweight members to its board. Among them is Sir Peter Gluckman, Chief Science Advisor to the Prime Minister. Sir Peter talked to TV9 about the cooperation between China and New Zealand on science and innovation. Christy Jar reports.
The New Zealand-China Council was recently launched as part of the government's China strategy. The council is intended to bring together leading New Zealanders engaged with China from business, the public sector, academia and the community. Among the who's who is Sir Peter Gluckman, Chief Science Advisor to the Prime Minister.
One of the 6 pillars of the New Zealand China strategy is science and innovation, and that's why I accepted appointment to the board to help give emphasis to that, because otherwise it could be that it gets caught up in only worrying about business-to-business deals and doesn't think about the broader aspects of the relationship in education, in science, and people-to-people relationships.
Sir Peter calls China one of the world's most influential nations in the coming decades, and he says it's important that New Zealand and China develop closer relationships on all areas of cooperation.
There already is a New Zealand-China science agreement, and that's identified areas such as areas of water and food security, non-communicable disease, where scientists are already starting to work together. But it's much deeper than that. Science is related to innovation. China is investing a lot in innovation. New Zealand is investing in innovation. We're a small country, they're a big country, but there will be areas where it makes sense for greater and closer collaboration, which may have scientific benefit, it may have economic benefit, it may have public benefit.
He also talks about the entrepreneurial nature of local Chinese, who he says can bring valuable contact and perspective to New Zealand's placing among large market players.
The Council can help promote the fact that New Zealand is full of innovative people, both in the public and private sector. And by doing that, it can help introduce New Zealanders who sometimes don't find it easy to get introductions into the right places in China, which is a very large, complex country, it can help provide advice, it can help make introductions, and equally it can help identify where China may have needs, where New Zealand can help fill those gaps.
In commemoration of 40 years of diplomatic relations between New Zealand and China, the New Zealand-China Council will hold an inaugural partnership forum in Beijing later this year. The council is currently in its process to look for a chief executive. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
It's been reviewed that a growing number of identity thieves are using fake Malaysian passports to enter New Zealand illegally. Malaysia has a visa-free arrangement with New Zealand, and immigration experts say the fact that the country still uses older passports is something fraudsters can take advantage of. Christy Zhao reports.
New Zealand borders have seen a rise in the number of counterfeit Malaysian passports recently. In the past 12 months, 8 of the 14 people stopped from entering the country had fake travel documents from Malaysia. Experts say the reasons are twofold.
So I think Malaysian passports are the target because certainly some of the older passports have been easy to fake in terms of changing people's identities, and also because it's a passport that doesn't require a visa to enter New Zealand.
Visa-free arrangements do make it easier for people with fake passports because the only time they're checked is at the airline counter. Immigration advisor David Cooper says passports from countries like Malaysia are often easy to obtain, making them doubly easy to fake. But he says New Zealand has a pretty good system in place to deal with these problems.
I think the system is probably detecting more people today than ever it's done in the past. So there's a quite sophisticated pre-clearance before anybody, even New Zealanders coming into the country, have to go through, and I think that's helping them detect a lot more passport fraud than in the past.
Cooper says authorities are taking a much firmer view and prosecuting people to the full arm of the law. But countries need to put in place an international standard of passports with encryption capabilities to detect fraudulent behavior. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
Kiwi Rail has reassessed its budget plan and has played the first draw card to cut jobs. Amy Chen has more.
A consultation document announced that up to 220 jobs could be cut from its engineering department, with a decision set to be made by the end of July. The plan comes from poor trading conditions and the effect of the Christchurch earthquakes. A statement released from Kiwi Rail General Manager Infrastructure and Engineering Rick van Barneveld states the following. Kiwi Rail's infrastructure and engineering I&E business has reassessed its operational plan and associated budgets, with the result that the previously planned expenditure of $950 million will be reduced by $200 million over the next 3 years. The staff reduction will aim to save $14 million. Kiwi Rail currently invests $4.5 billion in capital expenditures, with the government paying $750 million, leaving the rest for Kiwi Rail to come up with. To achieve these savings, we are doing a thorough assessment of all costs across the I&E business, and this includes a full consultation process with staff, which is now underway. The plan is still in the early stages, but it is clear the financial targets in the turnaround plan is hitting Kiwi Rail hard. From 2013, Kiwi Rail's freight, passenger infrastructure and ferry businesses will be transferred to a new state-owned enterprise. Amy Chen, 9 News.
KFC will be the first of restaurant brands to introduce a self-service kiosk in New Zealand. Technology has been successfully implemented in France for a number of years, and now a KFC store on Auckland's North Shore will be the frontlining of the touchscreen terminals within the next year. Keisha has a story.
Customers will soon have the choice to place their order face-to-face with the staff or use the new kiosk with touchscreen technology at KFC. Such technology has been around for a number of years in KFC France. Acrylic self-service kiosk brings fast food to the next level. The result shows that between 12 and 20% of the restaurant's turnover is made with the kiosk, and increases turnover during the rush hour to 35%. It is evident that restaurants with kiosks often became busier, meaning the technology will not replace staff but increase staff because the restaurant will see more customers through the door. The introduction of self-service terminals is part of Project Fusion, the next phase of KFC's store transformation program, and it is hoped that KFC will see the same success in France repeat itself here in New Zealand. Kay Chow, 9 News.
That's all for local news today. Moving on to Asian news. Inflation in China has eased sharply, with consumer price rises slowing down in June to 2.2% compared to the previous year, leaving more space for the government's officials to bolster growth amidst a global slowdown. China's Statistics Bureau said the consumer price is down from 3% in May to 2.2% in June, a lot better than the government's targets of 4%. According to analysis, the main factor of the called inflation was the lower food price. China has also taken other moves to spur economic growth, such as cutting key interest rates and reducing the amounts of money that banks must keep in reserve. Analysis said they expect more of such moves from the governments going forward. A hijack attempt on an internal flight from Hotan to Urumqi on June 29 was outwitted by passengers and crew members on the plane, and for those who helped stop the hijack are getting awards from the Chinese airline. A ceremony was held on Monday in Haikou, the provincial city of Hainan. 9 crew members were given Audi cars, cash and property. 2 safety officers and the chief purser got cash and property worth over $600,000 per person. The rest also got rewards. According to BBC, the crew also received rewards from Xinjiang and Hainan governments. The 6 suspects were all detained after the plane safely landed in Hotan. More than 3,600 crocodiles were rescued by Chinese police last week. The smuggled crocodiles were originally to be served on dinner plates in Guangdong province. CNN reports, according to Xinhua News Agency, the Siamese crocodiles were confiscated on Tuesday in the Guangxi Zhuang Autonomous Region after crossing over the China-Vietnam border. Several of the crocodiles died from heat stroke during transportation, while others are being treated by vets. Reports say the provinces of Guangdong, Yunnan and Guangxi in the southern China are responsible for 68.3% of the national trafficking total in 2011. Photos of North Korea's Kim Jong-un and a mystery woman have appeared on mass media in South Korea, which led to speculations about her identity. The woman walked into a concert behind Mr. Kim and sat next to him on Saturday. On Sunday, dressed in a black jacket and skirts, she was shown on state TV with him at an official ceremony in the honour of his late grandfather, Kim Il-sung, the country's founder. According to BBC, due to the unawareness of Kim Jong-un's exact age and his marriage status, those photos has left many men in North and South Korea playing guessing games. Due to the anger with Japan's claims to islands controlled by South Korea, a man rammed his truck against the gates of Japanese embassy in Seoul. Japan has filed a formal diplomatic protest with South Korea. The South Korean driver, believed to be in his 60s, destroyed the gates of the embassy, but no one was injured. Reports say that he was later detained by the police. The islands, called Takeshima in Japanese and Dokdo in Korean, are claimed by both but controlled by South Korea, and the embassy has been a protesting target during the long disputes. According to BBC, South Korea said it regrets the latest incidents. Now we have our TV9 host from Asia Focus, Julie Nixon, to talk about the dangers of passive smoking being exposed.
The first study to examine the contribution of smoking to air pollution on city streets has come up with some sobering conclusions. A 5-week study by Otago University researchers in Wellington found cigarettes cause big increases in the number of dangerous fine particulates, airborne particles linked to heart disease, altered lung function and lung cancer. After testing the air quality of around 284 smokers at a shopping centre at an average distance of 2.6 metres, it was found that there was a 70% increase in particulates when smokers were around. Readings peaked at 26 times the normal level at a bus stop which had an overhanging roof. Associate Professor Nick Wilson, who was the co-author of the study, says council should protect the health of pedestrians by implementing smoke-free policies in shopping areas. He says council should be particularly concerned about protecting bar and restaurant workers who frequently have to breathe in second-hand smoke when servicing outdoor tables. Smoke-free policies have already been adopted for at least 1 or 2 outdoor parts of shopping areas in Australia, Japan and the United States. Auckland Council is considering a ban on smoking in public places, but is not planning a bylaw that would allow it to penalise offenders. However, there are many, including several councillors, who think that unless there is a penalty for breaching a ban, it would be a futile exercise. Designated smoking areas work well and smokers are generally respectful when they light up, but unfortunately the cat's out of the bag. Smoking's not only bad for smokers, it's bad for everybody around them. There's no better reason to ban the habit completely. It might be tough, it might be sad for smokers, but the latest study shows that this is the end of the road.
Thank you, Julian. Now let's take a short break and we'll be back shortly.